Welcome to the Press One for Nick podcast. My name is Nick Limsdahl. My guest this week is Dr. Frederic Bertley. Dr. Bertley is a scientist, scholar, and evangelist for innovative thinking. As the president and CEO of COSI, he is shepherding the leading science center to its next iteration in a legacy of success. Dr. Bertley, welcome to the Press One for Nick podcast.
It's such a pleasure to be with you on One for Nick. I'm ready to chat.
All right, man. So the first question that I got is, what's one thing people might not know about Dr. Bertley?
Oh, man.
There's probably nothing because you're out there telling the world about everything.
Oh, no. There's plenty. There's plenty. But one thing that folks might not know is I was the first African Canadian, because I'm from Canada originally, on the McGill University Alpine ski team.
Wow. And this is snow ski or water ski?
This is snow ski. So going up in Canada, I learned to ski.
Yeah.
Interesting story. My parents are from the Caribbean. My dad's from Trinidad, my mom's from Barbados. Of course, not a lot of skiing going out there. Yeah, it's a Jamaican bobsled team, but that's more of a novelty. And so, they weren't into winter sports, but they met in Canada. And they had 4 kids, and they decided all of us were going to learn to ski. And I was the last of 4. I was 3 years old, and so I learned to ski really well, just because I've been at it for so long. And then ended up racing. And at university, McGill had a very good alpine racing ski team, and I tried out for it and made it. And
man,
that's
got a
awesome. Little notch in the McGill community.
I love that, man. It's a nice little nugget of something people might not know about you. So somebody's going to randomly come up to you in like a year from now and say, "Hey, I heard about that on the podcast."
Absolutely. Now to that one person who comes up to me, I haven't skied much lately, but it's like riding a bike. I'm sure I'd be all right.
Yeah, there you go. So for the few who do not know or are not familiar, because we got listeners across the world that are listening to this, but that are not familiar with COSI. Give us a little quick background, a bit about the organization.
Yeah, so COSI, C-O-S-I, stands for the Center of Science and Industry. It's in Columbus, Ohio, right here in the middle of the United States. And it's a science museum, essentially. But what's really cool about it is it embodies both the science museum experience in the building. So we have all kinds of great exhibits, hands-on experiences, so you can get an indelible feeling of what, kind of pursuing science or having a scientific or engineering experience. That's in our building. But we have a suite of programs that also extend outside the building into the community, because we at COSI believe that science is everywhere and science is for everyone. Therefore, we try to have a programmatic impact wherever people live, learn, and lounge. And the United States, USA Today newspaper ranked us the #1 science museum 2 years in a row, 2020 and 2021. And that includes the pandemic. So we're really proud about that.
That is so awesome. I want to, for those who are watching it on video, there is this man, Dr. Bertley, is rocking the Marvel cap, and he's got the Marvel shield in the background. Talk to us a little bit about that before we kind of get into the customer experience side of the business.
Sure. So as mentioned, COSI, the Center of Science and Industry, is a science museum. So that means we get great traveling exhibits. And we're proud to tell the world that November 26th of 2021 through the end of May, Memorial Day 2022, we'll be hosting the exhibition called Marvel, the Universe of Superheroes. This is 80 years in the making. Everybody loves Marvel. You all know about the comics, and then, of course, the blockbuster movies. Well, this is the third leg in the 3-legged stool. It's an exhibit that's interactive to showcase everything you loved about the superheroes from Marvel. And so I'm wearing a cap every single day till we open, and the shield is to make sure I don't forget where I come from.
That is so awesome. If I were you, I'd just walk around with the shield into every single meeting.
Listen, Nick, I tried to do that, but people try to jack you for your shield, man. They're like, give me that. I'm not trying to get into a fight at work.
That's funny. I'll have to be your co-pilot one of these days, so you can just walk around. I'll be your not so muscled bodyguard.
No, you got it, man. I know you be squashing folks around me, so good. Yeah.
All right. So, hey, tell me about this guest experience you guys got at COSI. And, I think it's so important to what, just focusing not just on bringing awesome attractions, but focusing on that guest experience?
Well, it's funny, people don't particularly think of science museums as places that worry about customer service per se. To your point, I'm going to a museum, I'm going to buy a ticket, I'm going to explore it. We at COSI really believe the most important thing is how that individual feels from the minute they buy a ticket online to parking in the garage to coming into our building, of course, having the several-hour experience in our building, and then their experience when they leave. So we take the guest services with a capital G and a capital S and make sure all our team members, especially those who are forward-facing the guests, know how to approach folks, know how to chat with folks, know how to make people feel comfortable. Because science is interesting. Sometimes you have a cool experience, sometimes you have a scary or kind of shocking or experience you weren't planning on. And so we really think about how we ensure, no matter what aspect they're experiencing within our building, that it's a positive and exciting and most importantly, memorable experience for them. So we spend a lot of time doing guest service training, doing onboarding with our team, and then doing continuous training after the onboarding to make sure we're getting the best in class show with our team members.
Yeah, I think it's so important that what you touched on. I think it's important at the very front end where you're kind of onboarding the employee, talking about the guest experience, but it's that continuous training. It's educating and guiding that customer through your experience. It's not just setting it and forgetting it. It's truly immersing your employees to believe in and be marinated in that guest experience.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to tell you a story, if I may, Nick. It really speaks to how proud I am to work at COSI and how effective I think the COSI brand is from a guest experience. One of my senior members who works in operations was at a grocery store, 35 miles or so away from COSI. He's in the grocery store, and up comes this elderly lady in one of those drivable kind of little mini carts, things that you drive around. And he was wearing his COSI jacket, had the big COSI at the back of the jacket. And so she rolls up to him and says, hey, excuse me, sir, do you mind helping me get, that groceries? And he's like, hey, I'm sorry, I don't work here. And the lady said, oh, I know you don't work here, but you're wearing COSI, so you probably work at COSI, and you guys are just so amazing. Can you help me get that? Mm-hmm. And I heard that story. I was like, that's really cool that she knew he didn't work there, but because he worked at COSI, he was going to help her out. And that kind of thing is just unbelievable.
That's so cool. It kind of shows that you guys go above and beyond. It's not just the status quo. So awesome. So tell me more about, over the last 20 months, it's been rough for everybody. So how has COSI been impacted over that?
Yeah, like everybody, it's been tough. We closed our doors on March 10th of 2020. And then, most museums and cultural institutions, they depend on ticket sales. So the minute we closed our doors, we had no ticket sales. It wasn't like we had low attendance. We had no attendance.
Right.
And we couldn't fulfill our weddings, our conferences, all these different things that bring in revenue that we depend on. That was shut down. So like many places in America, we had a quick decline. But again, what I said earlier, and I challenged the team about this, we talked this big talk about we're all about science. Could we walk that talk? And what do I mean by that? Well, we say science is everywhere and science is for everyone. So if that's true, we should be able to, as COSI, this brand that's supposed to make science accessible, we should be able to bring that to you independent of our building. And if it's really good, and if it's really important and meaningful, we should be able to monetize it. And Nick, that's exactly what happened. We launched a bevy of initiatives from online content, and it wasn't just any online content like everyone else. It was science content that backmapped to the Ohio Science Learning Standards and to the next generation science standards. That's important because if you're a science teacher during the pandemic, you were scrambling for how you're going to teach this virtual environment. You need content that maps to the standards. That's critical. Yeah. Every teacher is measured on that. So we went from having a website that had nominal foot traffic, typical foot traffic to our kind of milieu, to, oh my gosh, people were downloading our content like crazy. That's one. Then we created these hands-on kits because, you go to Science Museum, you want to press a button, pull a lever. You want to have a hands-on experience. Well, you can't do that if we're physically closed. So we said, what we're going to put some experiments in a box. We created this kit. Each kit has 5 experiments. We have a space kit, a water kit, a human body kit, an energy kit, a dinosaur kit, and those people went bananas for those. Again, struggling at home, what can you do for your kid? Here's these cool science kits that have hands-on experiences, so your kiddos are having fun and they're learning against the standards. And so we were able to monitor. This is just 2 examples. We also created a television show. In the middle of a pandemic, we worked with a PBS affiliate, WOSU PBS, to create a brand new primetime 30-minute television show called QED with Dr. B. It was all about science and breaking it down to digestible but enjoyable moments for the average person who typically is discouraged from science, etc., but in the middle of a pandemic, starving to learn more about science because that's how we got out of this mess, right? So all these things we triggered in that 20-month period that you alluded to, Nick, and they were monetizable. We got grants from the cities, from counties, from the state, and now we're doing stuff outside of the state of Ohio, again, supported by public dollars to get a lot of this good work done, and individual donors and companies as well.
That's so awesome. It sounds like you guys kind of not necessarily matched what you were doing in the past, but now you have the ability to grow outside of your current bandwidth. What you thought wasn't possible, you got creative and kind of stepped out and said, hey, do I have to kind of put my money where my mouth is? And science is everywhere. Let's actually prove that out and let's monetize it to make it work. So that's so awesome. Was the boxes, was COSI Connects? Is that what that was called?
COSI Connects was the website.
Yep.
COSI Connects is our universe to science content. And the boxes were called COSI Connects kits or the Learning Lunchbox, depending. They have the same content in it. So COSI Connects is kind of the umbrella that oversees all our content online, our COSI kits, our Learning Lunchbox, the Color of Science program, our podcast, all these different things fell under COSI Connects, the digital portal.
Yeah, the one thing you talked about was the kind of the Learning Lunchboxes. Was that specifically for a group of people? And is that more a way to build that community up?
Absolutely. It's funny, you nailed it. So the kit is a series of 5 experiments in the box. We started off with actually the Learning Lunchbox because we wanted to really impact, Nick, the underserved community. We knew once that pandemic was triggered, yes, the K through 12 space was struggling, but the poorer zip codes of this nation were struggling even further. So we came up with this thing and we called it a Learning Lunchbox because we partnered with the initial partners were food pantries and food services. So they would give out free food once a week and we would give out these kits. And so they were feeding hungry lives while we were feeding hungry minds. And so we called it the COSI Learning Lunchbox. And that program grew immensely because, as you can imagine, city officials, county officials, state officials want to help the underserved community. And here was a real measurable way they could do that. But the kits were so popular, we were like, well, if you're middle class or upper class and you want to buy that kit for your kiddo, you should be able to do it too. So we have the retail version as well, which is just straight called the COSI kits. So it's the same exact stuff inside, but one is funded by public dollars so that the underserved kiddo can get it for free, or the underserved teachers in the tougher school systems that are not well funded can get them for free. But the other kits are available for those who want to buy them.
That's so cool. So bringing it full circle, going back to the Marvel exhibit, coming in at the end of November, the question I got kind of circling around in my noggin is, how did that come to fruition? Like, is it, you just said you called up the Marvel crew and you said, hey, you got to come join me. This is a sweet posse. Let's do this in Columbus. How'd you do this?
Well, if I keyed you up, Nick, to make that call, that might have worked. We don't have juice like that. But the way it does work, all jokes aside, is, there are different levels of traveling exhibits, right? The Marvel exhibit is what's called a blockbuster exhibit, meaning it's a huge deal. It's a long time coming. They spent a lot of money to make it, and it's phenomenal. They know people want to see it. So the builders of it, which in this case is SC Exhibitions, who partnered with 2 other institutions to create this exhibition, they know the museum landscape, from Canada to the US to South America to Europe, and they shop it at places based on their research. Institutions that either are super popular, have high foot traffic, have shown that they can handle blockbuster exhibits in the past, know how to make sure there's going to be ancillary content to support it. So is there going to be additional programmatic stuff to support the exhibit, et cetera, et cetera? And so, when they're shopping, they come to places, and it's a combination of, hey, we heard Marvel was coming. They knew about COSI because we won the #1 science museum 2 years ago, and plus a whole bunch of other awards. So COSI has been slowly climbing on that national and even international map to some extent. And so it was the opportunity was, hey, COSI, we'd be willing for you all to have this exhibition in Central Ohio. We were like, what? Where do we sign? Like, sign right now. Let's work the details out now, but can we sign this now, please? So we found out we're getting it. Couldn't be happier. And again, we're COSI, but really it's about Central Ohio. I mean, what the city of Columbus has grown to and developed into has been incredible. So you got Facebook here, you got Amazon here, you got Amgen's creating a new center. Of course, you got the Ohio State University, plus a good other 20 universities, by the way, in a 50-mile radius. It's just an incredible city. You got L Brands, you got Nationwide. And so the fact that we can attract this blockbuster exhibition here is proof not just that COSI is a cool place, but the city of Columbus is legitimately on the map.
Yeah. Well, congrats to you guys for putting it on the map as well. It's not just Columbus, and it's great that you include Columbus into that swath. But kudos to you guys on the amount of effort that you're putting in to make it the success that it has been.
Well, appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Rising tide, sir. Like we were talking about earlier, Nick. It's a rising tide that raises all ships.
That's right. So I wrap up every podcast with 2 questions. And the first one is what book or person in customer service or customer experience has influenced you the most in the last year? Mm-hmm. And then the second one is if you could leave a note to all customer service representatives, right? In customer service, and it's going to hit everybody's desk Monday at 8 a.m. What would it say?
Okay. Wow, those are two banger questions. All right. The first question, I'm going to say, because you said within the last year, I'm going to name Jordan Peterson. Okay. A lot of people know him, but for those who don't know him, by training, he's a psychologist, psychiatrist, professor at University of Toronto. Yeah. He was slightly controversial for a few things that came up a few years ago, but he's really doubled down, and he's got this book called, I think it's called 12, I'm going to get the title, I might get the title wrong, but it's called 12 Steps for the Best You, or something like that. But it's a best-selling book. But in it, he talks about, you owning who you are and do the best you that you can be. Now, people say this all the time, but he walks you through all these different things to do to really bring out the best you that you can be. And when you can be the best you that you can be, you're going to be the best you to everybody else. So from a customer service standpoint, if you have a really great, healthy relationship with who you are and how you take care of yourself and your loved ones and the people close to you, that's going to resonate beyond that. And so Jordan Peterson, check him out. He's got a wonderful series of lectures online, all for free. So that's one person. If you're asking me about, what advice would I give to somebody on a Monday morning from a customer service, real quick, I'd say something like, how'd your weekend go? And if the answer is, I had a great weekend, I'd say, well, hopefully you'll continue that throughout the rest of the week. But if they say, I had a bad weekend, you might say, well, look, if you, don't blame others for the road that you're on, because it's your own ass fault.
Nice. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, or if they say they want to buy a ticket to the Sweet Marvel exhibit, or they just want to check out COSI, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you guys?
2 easy ways. My favorite 4-letter word after Fred. That's go to COSI.org, COSI.org. That'll get you access to everything COSI is doing. If you want to get in touch with me directly, it's very easy. My last name, Bertley, at COSI.org. I'll guarantee to answer your email.
Very cool. Dr. Bertley, thanks so much for your time, man. Had a blast, and best of luck with that blockbuster exhibit.
Listen, I'm honored to be picked to be on Press One for Nick. So thank you so much for having me on. Best podcast here. Right now, check it, Press One for Nick.